I'm dealing with a dataset containing 15 samples, which are individual data points. Think of them as 15 rows in a spreadsheet. I need to choose the correct way to split these 15 samples into a test set, samples 0, 1, and 2, and a training set, samples 3 through 14, using SCLARNSPREDEFINEDSPLIT. This is a tool that lets me predefine which samples go where. This is a function from the Sklearn library. It allows me to specify which data points are used for training and testing my model. This is a NumPy array. I use this array to tell PredefinedSplit how to divide my data. A value of -1 means the sample belongs to the training set. Any non-negative integer represents a test fold. The problem involves using SCLARNSPREDEFINEDSPLIT for a specific type of cross-validation called stratified k-fold. Here, I'm given 15 samples, and I need to split them a certain way for model evaluation. I have a dataset with 15 samples. The goal is to split these into training and testing sets for machine learning. Option A represents the data split with an array. The first 3 samples are assigned to -1, training, and the rest to 0, test. This is not what I need. Option B represents the data split using an array where samples 0, 1, and 2 are in test fold 0, and the remaining samples are in the training set, -1. This is correct. Option C creates an array that is 16 elements long when I only have 15 samples. So it's incorrect. Option D assigns all 15 samples to the training set, -1, meaning there is no test set, which is incorrect. This is the title of the problem. I'm using SCIKITLEARN-SPREDEFINEDSPLIT tool, which helps divide data for testing and training machine learning models. The problem focuses on how to use it correctly for a stratified k-fold cross-validation. Stratified k-fold means I'll divide my data into k-groups while keeping the same proportion of each class in each group. It's a good method for model validation. I have 15 data samples. I want to select samples numbered 0, 1, and 2 for testing, and samples 3 through 14 for training. This division of my data is essential for proper evaluation of my machine learning model. This option incorrectly assigns samples 0, 1, and 2 to the training set. -1 represents training, and the rest to the test set. 0 represents test fold 0. It's backwards. This is the correct answer. I see that samples 0, 1, and 2 are correctly assigned to test fold 0, represented by 0, and samples 3 through 14 are assigned to the training set, -1. That's exactly what I want. This option creates an array of 16 elements, which is wrong. I only have 15 samples. This option incorrectly assigns all samples to the training set, -1. I need to have a test set. We're working with a dataset containing 15 samples, or data points. Think of these as individual observations in your experiment. This number is crucial because it dictates the length of the array we use to define our training and testing sets. This question asks you to understand how to use PredefinedSplit in Sklearn. We need to choose the correct array that separates the 15 samples into training and testing groups, exactly as specified. Think of it like dividing a class of students into groups for a project. This shows the indices of all 15 samples in our dataset. Each number represents a single sample. We'll be assigning these samples either to the test fold or to the training fold. I'll explain this option. The array backquote 0, 0, 0, -1, -1, -1, -1, -1, -1, -1, -1, -1, -1, -1, -1, backquote represents the assignment of samples. 0 means the sample belongs to the test set, fold 0, and -1 means it's in the training set. Therefore, samples 0, 1, and 2 are in the test set and the rest in the training set. This is correct. This option is wrong. The ***4 repeats the sequence *0, 0, 0, -1 4 times, creating an array of length 16. But, remember, we only have 15 samples. The array length must match the number of samples. In this option, the first 3 samples are assigned to the training set, -1, and the remaining samples are assigned to the test set, 0. This is the opposite of what the problem statement asked for. This option assigns all 15 samples to the training set, -1. There is no test set defined. This will not work for our cross-validation. We're working with a dataset containing 15 samples. Think of these as 15 individual data points, each with features and a label. This is the total number of data points we will split into training and testing sets. I've decided that samples numbered 0, 1, and 2 will be used for testing my machine learning model. These samples are set aside to evaluate the performance of the model after training. The remaining samples, 3 through 14, will be used to train the model. The model will learn patterns from these samples and use that knowledge to make predictions on the test set. Now, the core problem is selecting the correct way to tell scikit-learn's ***predefinedSplit function how to split my data into training and testing sets, based on my previously defined sets. Each option presents a different way to encode this information. We're working with a dataset containing 15 samples. Think of these as 15 individual data points. Each data point will be assigned to either a training set or a testing set. This question asks you to choose the correct way to use scikit-learn's function. This function lets you predefine which samples go into the training set and which go into the testing set. We need to choose the option that correctly separates the samples. Let's look at option B. This line of code uses a NumPy array to specify the training and testing sets. The numbers in the array indicate which set each sample belongs to. A 0 means it is in the test set, and a -1 means it is in the training set. This specific array assigns samples 0, 1, and 2 to the test set and the rest to the training set, which is exactly what the problem requested. This is correct. Great job. Option D uses the NumPy array operation, ***. The expression creates a list of 3, -1, values, and creates a list of 12, -1, values. These are then added together, which results in a list of 15, -1, s. In this setup, all samples are assigned to the training set. There's no testing set at all. This is incorrect. Here, the first 3 samples are assigned to the training set, -1, and the rest to the testing set, 0. That's the opposite of what the question wants. It's incorrect. Option C attempts to create a NumPy array using the multiplication operation, ***. The result would be an array of length 16, not 15 as the dataset dictates. This means option C is incorrect because it has the wrong array size. This line sets the stage by identifying the machine learning library, scikit-learn, and the specific technique, PredefinedSplit, we're using for creating our training and testing data splits. We're essentially learning how to perform a stratified k-fold cross-validation. That is, we are using predefined splits. This line tells us the important information that the dataset has 15 samples. That is, there are 15 data points that need to be split between training and testing sets. This problem describes a scenario where you have 15 data samples. I want you to use scikit-learn's ***predefinedSplit to divide these samples into a test set and a training set. The test set should include samples 0, 1, and 2, while the training set should contain the rest, samples 3 through 14. Think of it like preparing for an exam. I'm giving you some practice problems, training set, and some problems for your final exam, test set. This is a multiple-choice question. I'll present you with 4 different ways to define the test and training sets using ***predefinedSplit and you must choose the correct ones. It's a bit like choosing the right tool for a job. Let's see if you can pick the right one. Here, the ***test_fold array uses -1 to represent training samples and 0 to represent test samples. I see that this option incorrectly assigns samples 0, 1, and 2 to the training set, -1, while the rest are assigned to the test set, 0, which is opposite of the requirements. This is clearly not right. This option correctly assigns samples 0, 1, and 2 to the test set, 0, and the remaining samples to the training set, -1. This is exactly what I asked for, so this is a correct answer. This option attempts to create the test_fold array using array multiplication. The ***4 means it repeats the sequence 0, 0, 0, -1, 4 times. This results in an array of length 16, while I have only 15 samples. It's like having extra ingredients when you're baking a cake, it doesn't work. In this option, I first create an array of 3 -1s, -1, *3 and then concatenate it with an array of 12 -1s, -1, *12 The result assigns all 15 samples to the training set, meaning there's no test set at all. It's like having a practice exam but no actual exam, not useful. This section explains how the dataset is represented. Each sample is identified by its index, starting from 0. This row lists all the sample indices, 0, 1, 2, 14. This is simply showing how each data point is uniquely numbered. This section describes how **predefined_split works in Sklearn. To use **predefined_split, I need two things. The sample indices, 0 to 14 in this case, and a **test_fold array that indicates whether each sample belongs to the training set or the test set. **predefined_split takes the **test_fold array, where -1 designates a training sample and a non-negative integer, like 0 in this example, indicates a test sample belonging to that particular test fold. The final output is the separation of the samples into training and testing sets based on the instructions provided in the **test_fold array. This is the title of the quiz question. I'm using Sklearn, a popular machine learning library in Python, to perform stratified k-fold cross-validation. This technique helps me evaluate the performance of a machine learning model more reliably by splitting data into multiple folds for training and testing. The specific type of split I'm focusing on is called stratified, ensuring that the proportion of different classes is similar across each fold. I'm using a specific tool in Sklearn called **predefinedSplit to have more control over the way data is split. Here's the core of the problem. I have 15 data samples, and I want to divide them into a test set and a training set in a specific way. My test set will contain samples 0, 1, and 2. The training set will be made up of the remaining samples, from 3 to 14. My job is to correctly represent this split using **predefinedSplit. This option shows one way to set up the **predefinedSplit. I'm using a NumPy array, **NP. Array where each number represents a sample. The number 0 means that sample belongs to the test set, fold 0. -1 means the sample is in the training set. I can see that this code accurately reflects the train split I described earlier. Samples 0, 1, and 2 are assigned to the test set, fold 0, and the rest are in the training set, -1. This is the correct way to set this up. This attempt is flawed. The ***4 part tries to repeat the pattern *0, 0, 0, -1, 4 times, but this results in an array of length 16. I only have 15 samples, so this representation is incorrect. It doesn't match the number of samples in my dataset. In this option, the -1, *3, part creates an array of 3 -1s, and -1, *12, adds 12 more -1s. So, I end up with all samples assigned to the training set. I don't have a test set defined. This is completely wrong. This also incorrectly sets up the split. I'm assigning samples 0, 1, and 2 to the training set, -1, instead of the test set. It reverses what I want.